tell you a quick funny story about Kurt Busch. I went up to Kurt. We were at the hall, I don't know, back in December maybe for an alumni function. And anyhow, Kurt was there, and I went up to him and I said, Kurt, Rick, I introduced myself. Hey, Rick, I know. I said, well, Sir Kurt, I got to tell you something. I want to tell you how proud I am of you. He said, what? I said, I want to tell you something. I'm real proud of you. He says, really? I said, well, here's the deal. I said, you were coming in as I was going out. I said, the last year I was in the sport, the last 6 months or other, we were parked beside each other, or we were together in the garage area. And I said, a couple times, I'd say something, and you kind of blow me off. And I said, one time we were parked right beside each other in the garage area, or in the motorhome lot. And I come out of my motorhome, and you were going in your motorhome, and we were right beside each other. I said, hey, man, how's it going? And I said, you never even you never slowed down, you never looked, you never did anything, didn't look at me, right? Didn't say a word. You went by, and I said, all right, the hell with that prick, right? Yeah, I've seen that attitude before in our sport, right? And didn't really think a whole lot about it because, like I say, I've seen that before, seen how that plays out a lot of times. Well, so then in my career and all through the years, I kept an eye on Kurt because she was so talented, and in my view, anybody that's real talented, God-given talents to drive a race car, I always pull for them, man. I really do. I just, I throw out the bad things and look for the good, and like, he kept doing his thing. He was winning races, running up front, doing all these things, and he just couldn't ever get it together, out of the race car. And then something happened, whatever it was, that started his turn back to being a normal person, you might say. It got to where, just the last few years, Kurt's like, all right, you got it figured out, man. You're a good dude, right? You're a good dude. And for that, for your turnaround, and for what you've accomplished, I'm very, very proud of you, right? And he seemed to enjoy that. He seemed to accept that. And so it was pretty cool.
He does seem, I don't think I've ever met Kurt, just watched from afar, like every other fan. But he does seem, and you never know. You just never really truly know with people behind closed doors. And especially with athletes, celebrities, whoever, when they have a bad moment publicly that they have to then try to come back from. A lot of times you'll see them try to make their apology and come back, and you go, I don't know if that's real or not. They're doing it because they got to do it. You just don't know. He is one, again, I don't know. I don't know the man, but he does seem like it's genuinely turned for him. Like he's really, that he, at whatever point, like you said, at whatever point that he figured it out and has become a much better person and man because of how he was. And I thought it was telling in his speech the other night. I was very intrigued by coming into it by his speech to wonder how much was he going to acknowledge, or how would he acknowledge kind of some of his missteps early on. And I thought it was, whether he or whoever wrote it, I thought it was a smooth way of talking about when I think it got really bad for him when he was driving for Roger Penske in the Blue 2 car. He said that one line, I wish I would have respected it more.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought that was a really cool way of expressing how he looks back at that time, of like how I just thought that was such a simple line, but such a great way of expressing remorse and acknowledging that time in his life.
Cup racing, I'm going to tell you right now, Cup racing has this way of humbling the best, right? And that's why I said when he said that to me, and I thought, well, heck with you, right? I thought, yeah, I've seen this before. I know how this goes. A lot of times that attitude won't carry you. Kurt was so talented that his talent on the racetrack and his results it carried him, and it overcame his shortcomings with his personal part, right? But it finally bit him in the butt where he was kind of out there, in La La Land and didn't have anything. And he went to James Finch. And, for people in our sport to know James Finch, he's a good guy, man, party hard, fun-loving guy, does a lot of good things. But that team was not a top-flight team, but he turned that team around and about won a race with that car, right? And that kind of got him going again, and he was saying the right things and doing the right things off the racetrack, and I guess that's kind of what propelled him, got him going again. So anyhow, just proud of the boy.